I'm going to call the Capital Improvement Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, in the resource room at 2:03 p.m. First item on the agenda is the public radio system, safety radio. I asked town administrator to have the police chief and fire chief come to the meeting in case anybody here has any questions surrounding this project. So open up to the rest of the members to see if anybody has any questions for either one of these two gentlemen. Mark Dunleavy's here as well. Before we get into that, one more thing. Ashley, the new minutes taker, isn't used to everybody here, so anybody that speaks would just acknowledge who we are, so that way she can keep proper minutes. In attendance is Ellie Chesbrough, Shirley Mazinski, Ben Tassino, John Furno, myself, Mike Fitzpatrick, Ken Vincent's here as well, Matt Wojcik, Nick Miglianico, Mark Dunleavy.
Mark Dunleavy, yes.
Yeah, Dunleavy, Jean Lovett, and Patrice
Russo?
Russo. Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions for the radio project?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to hear
Yeah,
some...
Shirley.
Shirley Mazinski,
Yep.
sorry. I'd like to hear some input from the chief and Mark and Ken regarding this. So-
It's just their type of input. I'm just trying to help these guys, so
Yeah.
their opinion on it, or?
Yep. Opinion and how they feel about it.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, before we get into that, just anybody have any direct questions for these guys? No? Okay. I have just a couple little minor questions. As far as coverage, we talked, the last meeting, Marcus Group did their presentation, they explained it to us, and I didn't think of it at that point, but talking to Matt a couple different times about how the system works, will the coverage be affected down like in Wallen Lake area in the forest and stuff like that, or will that be covered by those antennas that we have, the monopole that you have, Ken, behind your building, and the one up on 16? Will we still have coverage there in those areas with this type of system? Does anybody
I
know
would
that?
think we would have better coverage than we have now, because our coverage down at the park is not good at all.
Right.
Off the portables.
Yep.
Unless they're connected to the repeater. We always have to have a car down there if you're just on your portable without a repeater. But I thought we also had talked to them about possibly at one point putting something down at their guard shack, another antenna to get us out of there better,
Okay.
if we were down there with just a portable. But
Yeah.
anything would be an improvement
Yep.
from what we have now down there.
And I understand this is gonna go through other processes after this is getting to a point where we can get it onto the town warrant and see if the town approves it. It's just trying to answer some basic questions
Right.
on the front end of things. But more so just to make sure we have the proper budget for it, in case there is something that may be missing. Does anybody else have anything on this? Well, hopefully I didn't waste your time coming in. I had anticipated maybe there was a few more questions, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And just to reiterate, I know Shirley, we only go,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't know how good this is.
yes, I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nick Miglianico, Police Chief. I know Shirley had wanted, some comments about what we're looking at here. Right now, our system, and I know you got a presentation last week or your last meeting from Marcus. The police department, we're kind of split. We're VHF, UHF, so we're already on the VHF frequency, but we don't have the equipment to move completely over to that. So this is going to give us, like Marcus told you, better range. We'll have microwaves and other apparatus that's going to help us out with that. The UHF, the low band, is getting phased out. So at some point, we're not gonna be able to get equipment, we're gonna have to move all the way over to VHF. And, Marcus is a great company, they put together a good presentation, they know what they're doing. So we were happy with what they presented.
And you did see it, obviously?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And Mark, I think, has been, I saw a note here from before, talking with the Sutton Police Chief, and they've had some issues.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Mark might better be able to explain that.
Yeah, Sun is looking at adding a couple more simulcast sites to their system, the last I knew. I don't know, in the last few months, I don't know if you've talked to anyone over there in that. But they are gonna add some more sites for some weak areas they had in their network.
That's Ellie.
Ellie, Chesborough. You had said that the UHF is being phased out, and I think we were told last week, not by whoever's proposing this thing, but by people sitting at the table here, that it was, the UHF was still going to be used at the school because they didn't need it.
Could be the UHF equipment, more so portables and stuff like that. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, the UHF frequency that was assigned to us by the FCC is on a frequency that is called the T-band, which the government is supposed to be taking back. They've been saying that for many years now. The problem with it is major cities like Houston, Boston, LA that are on this T-band, but they're eventually gonna phase that out. So I think that's where some of the confusion came about being phased out. The school, I believe, is on its own network, its own system. It's not associated with our UHF network. They just have a licensed frequency.
And so what do they use theirs for?
What do you mean?
Well,
Talking amongst themselves, between the schools, when there's a
Okay.
fire drill, the principals and teachers and things like that are able to.
so it's not an emergency
No, no.
use.
No, it's for maintenance and everything
It's for,
else.
yeah.
They did
all
provide
internal.
one for us, for police and for fire, so that we can communicate with them. Because before it was, you'd have to walk all the way across the campus to do a face-to-face with the principal, because you couldn't talk to them. So they got us a radio, which we bring on those, and when we do fire drills, when we have incidents, we can communicate with, at least communicate with the principal, make sure they have everybody out and that they have everyone accounted for, things like that. But that's more, they carry it as, it's like an emergency radio for them to talk. I don't really believe they talk on that all the time. I think it's only when there's some type of
No, usually
an
maintenance.
evacuation drill or something.
Usually maintenance from the principal to maintenance, or principal to principal if they have an incident in the school, but it's more of an internal system, it's not more of like outside regional that's gonna you're gonna be able to pick up from other parts of town.
Yeah, they've only got four buildings to worry about. But when we built the new school and renovated the middle school, we put what the building code requires now for newly constructed buildings is called a BDA, or a bidirectional amplifier, that has our frequencies in it. So when we get into a brick and mortar building, that blocks the signal, but if you have a bidirectional amplifier, it's another radio system that basically amplifies things out. So we don't have any problems in the schools communicating on the band we were on now. But what we're looking to do is go to VHF, like the police have VHF. Every other town around us has VHF. Right now, we have low band converted to UHF. As we said, that's going to be phased out at some point, but the most important thing is for us to be able to communicate inside a building to the incident commander, no matter where we go in the Commonwealth. These radios, the portables that we have now, we got 10 or so portables not long ago. They have just about every town's frequency in the whole state. So no matter where we go mutual aid, we can communicate with the incident commander wherever that situation. We were in Webster last week, I don't know, 2 days ago. My guys could communicate inside the building with the incident commander outside. That was something we didn't have 2 years ago. But we're the only town left in the Blackstone Valley and the whole district that's still on low band or UHF. So it's more of a safety issue. And we have so many areas in the woods, in the state forest where we're uncovered. And that's what the whole point is, to get us up on into the 20th century, 21st century with radio signals so that we can communicate. We have a lot of calls in the state park, going in, finding people when it's dark, things like that. Also, with the mutual aid district, we have 3 channels we operate on when we go mutual aid. One's a travel channel between vehicles as they travel to an incident to keep things coordinated. Another is if you have a fire, a blue channel, you would do the water or the suppression operation, trucking in water for tankers. That's a total separate channel, so we're not stepping on each other. And then the firefighting operation or the suppression side would be the guys inside putting the fire out, talking to the incident commander, being on a red channel. So they have 3 channels, red, blue, and orange. Some of our radios, we don't have that in. But with this, that would all be part of that. It would all be programmed into the portals and into the mobile radios that we get in the fire apparatus as well.
Ken, you're currently on a different band than the police department now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're operating in VHF and UHF. So that's one of the problems, and then with mutual aid, you're having difficulties as well.
Mutual aid is most fire departments that we deal with,
Right.
actually all of them now, are VHF. So they're on a high band, whereas low band is a lower frequency. Highways on the low band. And UHF is around the 400 range. No, I'm sorry, the 150s range. And then the high band is in the actually it's the other way around. UHF is the 400s. High band is the 150s and whatnot, which is all the surrounding towns.
Yeah, that's what Matt had explained last week. That the problem you have is when you have mutual aid come in, they have to shut off their repeaters, otherwise you're having a problem.
Yeah, we actually crippled, there was a crash at the end of the ramp by Walmart a few years ago, and our ambulance went, and I was home listening, and our ambulance came in, didn't shut their repeater off, crippled the whole operation. I was trying to call them on a cell phone and say, shut your repeater off, but what it does is it warbles everything so that it's just squealing and nothing, there's no communication that's being able to be had.
Yeah.
So, right now, we had a fire not long ago, and the ladder pulled up, and I heard some squealing, so I had to instruct them to turn their repeater off. It's just something, you're in the heat of the moment, they forget to do it. It's an extra step, and it's cumbersome.
Yep. Yeah, and when we had that presentation with Marcus Group, they identified a few areas that were overlooked, like the monopole doesn't have it's not on to the generator at this
Correct.
point.
So, and a few years ago, when we had that hurricane, it was in the summer, we lost communication because the batteries went dead and there was no generator.
Yeah.
So,
So
that's
all
really
this
not
stuff-
the time you want to lose communication.
No, but all these things are going to be corrected with this new system.
That will correct everything.
You mentioned that the 10 radios that you have that pick up the other frequencies with the other departments in the state. Are those compatible with this new system?
Yes,
They are.
yeah.
Those were taken into account with the number of
Yeah, it
ones
would
that
have
we
been,
have
it
on
would have been
list?
24 instead of the 14 you see
Okay,
there.
yep, yeah. I'm
I
just
think we
asking,
got those
they're
from
like
capital, if I
$1,000 a
remember. I
piece.
think
so
we got
that's why I
those from
asked.
capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have another question. So Highway has the VHF,
We're low band,
so you're,
100%.
so what happens with you? I mean, are you going to come next year and ask
No,
for?
No. He's in on this system. Remember that?
Oh, I thought I
Remember
said
last week, we
VHF.
talked about
Yeah.
John being away from his truck and then he
Yeah,
couldn't hear us?
yeah. On purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, John's in highway, police, and fire. The one that's not on it is the school, and
Yeah.
if I understood it correctly, the biggest reason for that is it's a separate license that's unavailable.
Yeah. Now, I asked Matt,
I think that's what
is the
Marcus-
school going to come next year and say, we have to have VHF? Or is it never going to happen because they'll be happy with UHF forever and ever?
Well, you never say never, but my comment on that last, I'll stand by it, is that That's for their internal communication and management of the kids. And I'm in the principal's office enough, because this is my life story. But no, I hear them. They chatter constantly. And we can't have that in public safety.
Yeah,
So
no, I
you can't have
understand,
that
I
dual
understand the
purpose.
importance for public safety, I just
No, no, what
am
I'm saying is-
wondering whether the school is going to come and say, we have to have this,
And we want
Because-
them separate is my.
because the
Completely.
federal government is going to take it away, demolish UHF forever, when Los Angeles and Dallas and Houston and Boston all get their
Well,
ducks in a row, but.
we had talked about that, and and what Matt had said is they already have the safeguards in place with their panic buttons and ways of, the resource officer, ways of communicating with public safety. So as far as using a radio for maintenance and stuff like that, they could always get something that's gonna be used on that.
And
whether it's a
also,
walkie-
if they're not T-band,
Yeah, one thing for clarification, the UHF, there's a spectrum in there. It's only a small section of that spectrum that is in the T-band.
Right.
We just happened, got the luck of the draw, we were one of the last ones
Yeah.
to be given in it.
And
But
T
I don't
stands for
know
trouble
what
or something?
frequency the school's on.
Take away.
I
No,
don't
but
know
for
what
what-
frequency they're on, but they're on UHF somewhere.
But for their use, they don't need something this
for their
elaborate.
use, they wouldn't need VHF because they don't need the coverage. They just
Right.
need
Right.
their,
They're within
enough for their internal operation.
I just don't want to
Right,
hear this all over again
Yeah.
from the school.
understood.
Yeah.
Neither do we.
Yeah, do what you we'll let it get to you.
If I may?
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Shirley Mazinski. Mark, if I could ask you a question that seems you've been in contact with Chief Toll in Sutton,
Yeah.
and their problems, do you feel that, or does he feel that's because of how the contract was written, or the requirements, or the company that's...
No, I think it's just the propagation wasn't what they expected. The area that it was supposed to cover just wasn't. Maybe some trees grew taller in between the study and when it was actually done. Maybe they did the study in the fall instead of the spring. It could be anything. When we originally had our propagation done years ago, it said we're going to have great coverage. Then we turned it on and we didn't have as good coverage as we hoped due to the propagation map and some kind of interference they could never identify. So.
Sutton's a rough town. I mean, the terrain gets real ugly. But they're not using the same, do they go with Cybercom?
They went through seven.
And so their Cybercom, fine, all their equipment is Motorola. It's just it's a different operation. My guess is they didn't put enough simulcast sites up, or they're
I
figured
think-
in a way where they're not reaching the far corners of Sutton, which is not easy to do.
Which was always our problems here because we don't have a lot of town buildings or anything spread out. We're kind of focused down here.
Right.
Right, I think they had 2 antennas there in Sutton, correct?
That I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think, looking through the notes, I think that's what it says was 2 antennas, and I would assume that they were hoping that they could get by with that. And that's why we're looking at the 3 sites. We have the one up on the Webster line, we have behind the fire station, and then the school being the third. Should give us pretty good coverage in the town.
Years ago, when we started the last time, we did look at that tower up on Webster Street. At the time, they wanted $550 a month. So just to show you.
550?
$550 a month.
How long ago was that?
That's about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, probably.
So that's a good
So
gauge
you're-
for
You're
you to
looking at
use,
8.
because they're at 800 now.
Yeah.
So it's going up $250 in 10 years, which is dramatic.
That is one tall tower.
Yeah, but they do all the maintenance of their own generator and all that stuff that we're not involved in.
One of the
For
other
the
things,
800.
we're talking about this 1 million square foot building that comes down up in northeast Maine. Remember, if that's a new building, bidirectional amplifier by the code, so that's gonna help as well,
Right.
for areas out that way.
Does anybody know if like with, say Sutton's antenna, they get into the Manchog area, they're down in that area, does that help us at all?
It won't help us unless we're talking to Sun.
No, I didn't, no, all right. Yeah, I didn't know if it would help spread out the field a little bit.
Now, for the fire side, they're, like Chief said, they're all VHF. Unfortunately, us on the police side, or area towns around us, half are UHF, Sutton, not Sutton, Northbridge and Uxbridge are UHF, Sutton and Webster are VHF. So for us, it was always kind of who we go with, so.
Yeah. Anything else?
John?
No, I'm good.
No, he gets his one radio, he's happy.
No.
If you give him two, he might say something.
He spoke in favor of it last
I
week.
did,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Because I know, I mean, we had the horse rescue in the state forest,
Yeah.
and you saw me standing up on the lawn holding my radio up.
Yeah, and I seen Adam way down the path, staying away from both of us.
Trying to get us some help out there, you know, so
Yeah.
I think this is a good project. I know it costs a lot of money, but it'll benefit the whole town in the long run.
and we've been talking about this for some time.
Anybody else have anything for him? I'm not trying to rush people, I just don't want to tie up the chief and Mark if we're done.
One more thing? if I
Yes.
may,
Oh,
Shirley?
you can have two more things. if you
No,
want.
no. Microwave issues. Any problems you foresee with anybody having problems with microwave around the school?
I don't know, I don't have any problem with it, I think it's a step in the right direction. Marcus comes with a good track record. I know they've done the whole city of Holyoke. That's impressive. He walked into our station, heard the buzzing on the radio and said, how do you put up with that? It's not supposed to be like that. Hey, you know, this is Douglas. This is what we have.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Actually, you do, quite honestly.
No, I know,
I don't even hear it
you-
anymore. But
Well, the primary concern with microwave was whether or not rainstorms or inclement weather would cause interference, because that was the knock on microwave for years. And the technology has advanced to the point now where it's much more focused and reliable. So it's not like radio waves. It's not being broadcast to a whole area. We're not going to irradiate the town with microwaves. It's a point-to-point communication that gets translated into, standard electronic data. That's why it's going to be on the fiber network backhaul to the school. So the school antenna won't have a microwave receiver on it, just the water tower and the tower in Webster. And they're just talking to each other.
Yeah.
Back and forth. So that was part of, frankly, it was an important part of the conversation, because there's no need to invest this much money on something that's not going to work if it rains. That's silliness, right?
Yeah.
Because that's more likely to be out there with a motor vehicle accident or something other, that seems when everybody decides to wander in the woods, I guess. But no, they've just come a long way. There's shielding, and there's a whole bunch of other things they've done to compress the signal, make it more robust. So it's a much better technology than it was. As I said last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting, it's much better now than it was when Chief Foley was looking at this 10, 12 years ago.
A follow-up question with that, Matt, so if you have two microwave antennas, one on either end of the town that are communicating back and forth. If one of those goes down, does it knock out the whole system? Like the generator battery or whatever?
right now, we have no redundancy.
No, with the new system. Chief. So if we have two microwave antennas that are talking back and forth, and the others are just radio receivers, if one of those antennas goes down, does it wipe out your whole system?
I don't believe it'll take out the whole system. The whole idea of simulcast, you have multiple antennas, and your radio connects to the strongest signal.
Okay.
So if this signal is no longer here, it's going to
Yeah.
try and get all the way back to where.
So you don't,
depending
so
where you're at.
if one antenna goes down on anything, you don't lose the whole system, you may just be restricted on coverage in that area.
From my understanding, yes.
I would want to ask Marcus what would happen, and we can ask and get back to the committee,
Yeah.
because we don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But if the station up on the water tank goes down,
Yeah.
that's where the backhaul is to the high school. So if you're not communicating with that tower,
Right.
then you might not be able to get the high school, at which point you would be broadcasting only from one site,
Which would be part of the monopole.
which would be the Webster. So if the monopole went down, and its only
So
connection,
the monopole is the one on the water tower?
yeah,
Okay.
if the high school's only connection is to that one in the middle of town via fiber, if the one in the middle of town isn't working, it doesn't make sense that it would still be repeating up at the high school. I don't think it would be.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
So, that's the disaster we want to avoid. But
Yeah,
that's why we
it's
need to
just-
be on the generator up there. That's,
Right. Yeah.
it absolutely blows my mind. That was,
Well,
last week was the first time I ever heard that.
The plug in the Verizon building is stamped generator.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it's working. I didn't hear about that either till just recently, so.
Yeah, I guess Marcus looked it up,
Yeah.
followed the circuit. It's not connected.
And also, isn't it with Marcus constantly monitoring those systems? Marcus constantly monitors that, so as soon as something goes down, they're able to troubleshoot it right from their offices, is my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, as to the merits of the contractual relationship, this is a massive improvement. And I think the fellow we've used for years has been reliable, steady Eddie, knows his way around stuff. May not be immediately responsive, but is always responsive within a period of time. He's getting to the point where he's past retirement at this point, and technology's gotten to the point where this is how we do almost everything. And Adam's probably got the most on his phone, but I go a lot on mine. If there's a heat sensor that's not right at the schools, I get a message on my phone. That's the way Marcus is going to monitor our radio system remotely. So we won't necessarily have to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, our radios don't work. They should know. When we do the contract with them, we will be absolutely sharpening our pencils around that aspect of the relationship. So that's what was promised during the quote, and that's what we want.
All right, so,
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they will get the contract.
This is a statewide bid contract, so it's a operational services division best value contract that cities and towns may use without bidding. What we got from this was all the free consulting that got us to this point. They have not charged us any money for the system design.
So basically a study for nothing.
We got a pretty good study from them. But the other part of this, and I don't like to air all the dirty laundry, but I'll choose my words carefully. Marcus can sell you almost any brand radio. They have relationships with everybody except Motorola. Motorola, as a dominant brand, has not played nice in the sandbox because of their market domination position. And so they have the tendency to, oh, whoops, that's obsolete now, you're going to have to upgrade your whole thing. And there's been games played, so if you want, we can have Marcus come back and you can ask the question directly rather than me interpreting it for you. But he specifically said, I don't deal with Motorola because I don't believe that it's completely in the best interest of a small town with a limited budget to go with a vendor that's constantly turning product over and finding ways to charge you more money.
and
I felt the same
that's why
way.
he spec'd out Kenwood's.
Though these are Kenwood radios that have been spec'd out. I also feel the same way about Cybercom, and when I was TA in Tiverton, Rhode Island, we had Cybercom come in to talk about terrible communication issues there because of the way the town is laid out, the ocean and everything else. And they wanted like outrageous sums of money for basic pieces of equipment. And you can look at the list and say, that's just so overpriced, but if I sign a contract with them, I'm buying materials through them. And they'll only warranty what they sell you. So this is a complicated vendor relationship situation. That's why the state has statewide contracts, so that you can choose between these different vendors. Marcus is not a maverick, they're selling Kenwood. Kenwood is a tried and true product. What they are is the kind of vendor we do business with a lot. They don't necessarily do the mainstream thing and pay the premium price. They give you They give you the Sherman tank, not the fancy German Panzer tank that's the greatest and latest and greatest. Because all you really need is the steady Eddie product that's affordable and it's going to be there every day you need it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And are there
We had to
other,
learn a lot. This was an educational process,
Yeah, for all
talking
of us.
through these guys. Yeah.
and there are other companies out there similar?
I don't know who else has, there are not too many statewide contracts that can do soup to nuts. So Cybercom would be one. Marcus is one. And there might be one other, but it may not be statewide.
Yeah, like DNR Communications.
DNR Communications.
But they deal mostly Motorola.
Question, Matt?
Mhm.
The police chief had mentioned that maybe it wasn't yours, but that they watch the system, so if it goes down, they can correct it right away. So are we going to enter into a maintenance contract with them or a service contract of some sort? So that's
Absolutely.
aside from what's on here, because we were going through a bunch of figures last week, and I just wanted to make sure that we understood what all our associated costs were.
That conversation's never been itemized.
Yeah.
I don't know if it comes with our purchase. I think the first year,
Yeah.
that's coming back to me, the first year is completely covered by the cost of the system.
Yeah, I want to say, when we spoke with him the first couple of times, that was one of the things he kept on hitting on. If something goes wrong with your system, we're going to know it before you do, and we're going to be able to address it. Even the base radio, for example, he said if something went wrong with the base radio, they could get into it from their
Remotely,
end.
yeah.
We don't have to call, we don't have to wait an hour for somebody to come out. They can get
Yeah.
in remotely and at least tell us what the problem is.
Right.
And I agree with Matt, I think the first year was free as part of it, or part of the
Yep.
buying it, and then the maintenance might have been something after that, but I think that's something that has to be negotiated.
So, Shirley again. So could we be aware or find out
Well, I
about
think what,
this?
you got part of it last time.
Right.
So the radios, not the radios, the batteries
Yeah.
Yeah.
was, that's the material. So now I think the only thing that would come out of the service contract would be the time.
Timing and their
The
monitoring.
amount of time it takes them to.
If they're going to
replace
monitor it on
batteries.
24/7 for you guys, there must
Just
be
like
something.
ADT, you don't pay, you pay a subscription for that, but you're not paying for the.
But that's part of the operating cost, so you'll get that to us.
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's certainly something we can find out from them for sure and get back to them.
Well, I think, if we don't, and then we're recommending it, and then we find out other things, and that's when,
Right, and that was the whole purpose of
yeah.
everybody getting.
I mean,
together
I want a
today.
good system,
Yeah.
and they sound like a good, but we need to know.
Yeah, I think we
What-
can get a clear answer. That's a simple question and a simple, straightforward answer. If not, what is the cost and how
I
long
don't
is it
remember
gonna be?
being
Yeah.
that much money.
Yeah, no.
And if I could just say something, this new system is going to be really complicated. Not like the systems we have today, where if a radio dies off the cell tower, I go up and plug one in and we're up and going.
Right.
You're going to need this. You're going to need to have them be checking the satellite connections and everything else. You definitely need coverage.
Oh, there's no doubt in that, Mark.
We just
We
need to
went
know
through all
Not
the,
much, yeah.
Yeah, what's covered?
we went through all the soft costs, I'll call them, associated with this system last week. That was more for the finance director's benefit, so that she knew how to put this budget together. What I'd like to do as a committee is be able to vote on this thing next week, because it still has to be done before it goes to finance, so we can get onto the town warrant, and we don't have any time left on this, so that's why I'm asking all these little questions, make sure that we can put it all together, have a complete packet, and then we know what we're gonna spend next week, and then make a recommendation. Yes.
Ellie, does this mean if Marcus is doing, or if whatever company is doing all the maintenance, that will free up time for the police, and so that you will have extra manpower, so to speak, it's I mean, is that,
Well, something like that is technical stuff, but like, the person who takes care of our radios right now is basically Mark.
yeah.
And Jimmy Budzina, who's done it for years, like Matt said, great, knows his stuff, has done the whole Blackstone Valley for years, has done all of Central Mass, but he's retired. And he's, it might take us a while if our base radio went down to get Jimmy in here quickly enough to get it taken care of. And if Mark's not around,
Yeah.
we have to go
Yeah. Mark's the
elsewhere.
only
So,
one that keeps
yeah.
that puzzle.
Yeah, no, but what I'm trying to say is, with using, paying for a maintenance package from Marcus, that frees up your department of that responsibility.
It's going to free us up and get us up and running much more quicker than it would right now. It's going to give us the ability to be up and running quicker. Like right now, Mark's a part-time officer. He's got his own private business. He's got a lot of things going on. If he's not available to come up right away and figure out what the problem is, we're going to be down for a while. So unfortunately, none of us other officers in the department have the knowledge and the capabilities that Mark does.
But with this maintenance contract, that won't happen, right?
Right, correct. They'll take care of everything.
You're
And
gonna
they
have
should
a-
be able to do the majority of it right from where they are.
In Connecticut.
You're going to have a new system that they know exactly what it is, that what they're dealing with. So if there's a way for them to troubleshoot it, right? If I understand it correctly, now we have kind of a, over the years, mixed bag of systems that
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Basically, we
Let's
have
try
the
this.
flip phone
Yeah,
of radios.
right.
It's antiquated,
Yeah.
it's very limited in what it's used for. You can't take a picture with a flip phone.
No, I get all that, Chief, but I'm getting at is trying to explain, help Ellie with it, is
But the technology is
there's-
antiquated.
all this stuff has been kind of
You gotta go-
band-aid together over the years, so if you take Mark out of it and say, all right, Ken, can you fix this? Yeah, eventually, we'll figure it out, because he knows the path in which he got to where he is today. So if we get this new system in there, everything's spelled out, they know exactly what they're dealing with. So if they're like your cable box, if your cable goes down, you call up Spectrum, they do it all, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be done in about 3 minutes, and then they have it fixed.
Yeah, let me reboot it,
Right.
or do whatever, and they do
Right.
everything from
I don't
there.
have to spend 5 hours troubleshooting to find out what's wrong.
Right.
It's gonna be telling you what's wrong.
Yeah, for a separate scenario, like when that generator kicked on, what was it, last month, Matt? And you blew out this thing in here, and then you had Brandon or somebody up here trying to unplug,
Mark.
or Mark, unplugging stuff, trying to figure out.
He didn't realize I was behind him watching him as he did it.
Right.
It was pretty, it was
But
ugly. It was
that, you
surgery
were
with
down for
butter
what, a
knife.
couple hours? That-
Yeah, by the time we figured out what the issue was.
Right.
And then the power went down again, shut it off again.
And that's this new system, when you're up and running and everything's new and you know exactly what it is you're dealing with, they won't have that situation. Because not only were they down, but they also, like, to your question, you have somebody taken out of the police department that's playing around with the server that's in the back room, and that's not really what he should be doing.
Yeah, I had another question, but you've confused me now. So,
It worked.
yeah.
You owe me that quarter, man.
Chain shortage.
Oh, I know what it was. So Marcus, I'm sure you've had this, or we've had this conversation before. So Marcus comes with references, and we've checked them all out.
Yeah,
And who
they have
is
a
close by
statewide
that-
contract from what?
Or this size town, who?
Actually, the chief over in Uxbridge used to be the chief in Manchester,
Manchester,
Connecticut, which is
Which you
a
know as
large
Storms.
city. Yeah. And
University of Connecticut.
he comes highly recommended from him. He did Marcus did all their system when he was out in Manchester. Actually, after we talked to Marcus, the chief over in Uxbridge had called me, and he said, these guys know what they're doing. Gave them a reference. I mean, I didn't do any actual reference checks myself. I know of their reputation, though.
Your old system will still be in place until this one's up and running anyways. So it's not like you're gonna shut it off
Right,
and then,
no.
all right, well, we're gonna hook up this. So
Right.
if it doesn't work, they're not gonna get paid.
No, but references have been checked.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Well, they have a statewide contract, correct, man?
Yeah, but that doesn't,
So-
I don't trust necessarily what the state
Well,
recommends, you know,
I have
so.
to assume that they were vetted somewhat,
To
so.
be on a state contract, you have to be pre-qualified.
Right, right.
I know all my highway stuff,
Yeah.
and there's a ton of stuff done before they can be pre-qualified, so.
And we can get, even if you want, I think we can get a list of the cities and towns that they've done.
No, I'm sure they-
They've done,
That would be good.
they've done a great deal of work all
Yeah,
over.
if you can get that over the next couple of days, that way I'll forward it to all these people if that's what they want to see, which is fine, but
I mean, they
again, the
said,
goal is next week, next Wednesday, I already reserved the space for 2 o'clock next Wednesday. We need to move forward and make some sort of vote, whether we're accepting it or not next Wednesday. So I'd like to get all our questions out today so we can move forward with that.
and also about the contract, not
Yep.
just a year,
Yep.
but,
Yeah, Matt and Nick are gonna look into that and find out what
yeah,
that is.
what is usually the cost.
Yeah, I noticed in one of the line items that we didn't go over last week, but I'm sure Gene will find it. There's a small contingency of $5,000 for the fire department's base unit. It's on page 3, right above the budget figures, last sentence.
That's for your position? That's the position for the council. Yeah.
What's that, the 5,000?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, what page you on?
There's a small contingency of $5,000 should be considered. It's on page 3 of the second Marcus, yeah, that one there. So if you look at on the bottom of page 3 of 2, above the budget figures, it shows the 473,803 for the antennas. The last bullet
Oh,
point
yes.
is just something that we missed in there. But last week when they did the presentation, both chiefs, is the Marcus did say that they had extra monies figured in there in case of inflation on prices, price changes or whatever. So the radios are a little bit more, they went up a little bit on the antennas. So we should have a little bit left in there, potentially. The last, looking for that 5,000.
It's on page 3 of 3.
Yeah, the fourth dot
Three.
No,
down.
I've seen that, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
want to see if they broke out your other question isn't here or not.
Oh, and the maintenance part of it?
It's not, I'll just ask them.
Yep.
I think this map on the last page is a more accurate depiction. So your microwave to the police station, and from the police station, that's where you go to fiber to this building, and from this building up to the schools. There's more steps
Yeah.
there. All at the speed of light.
I do have one more question.
You already said that.
You're running out of
Another one,
words.
I know, I'm, sorry.
I think 3 times.
You guys gotta speak up.
I tried that in baseball, I've never seen one, can I have one more?
So, and again, it's Shirley, says tower on Douglas Road lease paid to industrial, and in parentheses, it says town to negotiate with the industrial. So, we need to check and see,
We do, that's a quoted price to Marcus by industrial, but the actual negotiation of a binding contract will not involve Marcus, it will only involve the town as the
yeah.
renter.
So once we get into it, and if we find out that the price is more, we need to have maybe an idea of what they would agree to.
We can get that.
Yeah.
What I envision is a one-pager, it's just going
Yeah,
to say what are the
so-
operational budget costs
Right.
from the capital project.
Yeah, so the Marcus already had a conversation with the antenna company on the location.
Yeah,
So assuming that this gets approved, then Matt would move into a conversation with them.
understand that, but I think we still need to have an idea of, is this really what it's gonna be?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is Marcus already had an initial conversation with that location, correct, Matt?
They had to, to make the system
Right.
work, we have to be on that tower, so they had to
Understand,
determine that.
Yeah.
But no, I've already agreed to this, so I'll
Yeah.
get it for you for next week.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it is a valid point, but I think we're all on the same page.
Yep.
The goal is to get this budgeted properly as it moves forward, so then it actually happens, and it doesn't become another list item.
yep.
Anybody else for these gentlemen?
Thank you, guys.
Seeing none, I appreciate your time. Nick.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Have a good day.
thank you.
Thanks for your input, Kevin, on that. That takes care of the radio system and generator. We're moving that. I just left it on the list, but that's going to get moved on to,
You're gonna strike that off the article, we'll make sure that happens.
the generator? Yeah. The 5-year capital plan. Are we taking the existing capital plan from last year, putting the new items on that's gonna happen this year, or potentially happen this year, and then just slide the rest of these forward? Is that the thought of the committee, or does anybody else have any input to that?
I mean, I think that would make the most sense at this point.
Yeah, it's a time constraint, and this is the only reason I'm approaching it this way, is to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And hopefully, as we move forward next year, we see where we are with these projects and make sure that they're in the proper order.
I agree with John.
Yeah.
Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay, so
Okay.
once we vote next week, we'll figure out what items are gonna go on to the town warrant, and that will be the items for fiscal year
We'll
21.
finalize the two articles,
Correct. Yeah.
and you'll see it verbatim.
Okay, so we'll revisit that next week and make a vote on that. The next thing is the senior center floor replacement. This was already voted on at one point, and they discovered that they had an asbestos issue, so we have Patrice here that's going to explain all this to us. She handed us all a nice little packet.
Of course we did. Nothing could be that simple, right? So we decided that,
Just say who you are, that way the minute taker.
sorry, Patrice Russo, Senior Center, or Adult Social Center Director.
Yeah.
So we had quite a few injuries at the senior center in the couple of years previous to me putting this in. tripping up on the carpet, trying to dance, trying to exercise, trying to do other activities, and it just seemed that it was just unsafe at this point. It's old, it's very worn. We thought that it was on top of cement, so we had gotten some estimates for the carpet to be done, and that's when we brought it to Capital. And then when I wrote the ADA grant last year to try to pay for the carpet and a few other things, we had another estimator who had come out to do the carpet, who pulled up aside and said, yeah, this is asbestos. So subsequently, Adam sent for somebody to test it and make sure the report is in there with the pictures, and it's throughout the center. So that kind of doubled everything up for us, and so it kind of held, and in good faith, we were putting the money that was appropriated from capital for the flooring towards the ADA grant, because you'd like to show you're going to put something towards the project. We did not receive the grant, and we had a low scoring based on the fact that we don't have an ADA commission in town. That's what it is, the ADA commission, right?
We had a high score, but we didn't get a high enough score to get the grant.
Right.
Because we don't have a commission.
Because we don't have a commission. So that threw our score down a little bit. So they suggested that, it was a great thing for us to do, and safety and some other handicapped accessibility things that we were doing. And because of the age of the building, they'd like to help with the asbestos part of it also. So I'm writing it, I'm actually uploading it today, the grant. We do have it now on the warrant for the town meeting, the ADA commission, and in good faith, hopefully they will take that. And so if we do not get the ADA grant, which I won't know until probably December or January, then we're still in the same position.
Correct.
And there's no guarantee we're going to get it.
And we already appropriated $24,000 towards the flooring, correct?
Correct.
Yep. And so basically the job doubled because of the asbestos abatement
Correct.
and those things.
And at this point, we're open with staff, and for just very minimal health services at the center, it would be a really good opportunity while we're remote with our seniors to be able to have this done at this time, because it wouldn't really interfere with any of our programming. And the building is empty, so, would be emptied, so it really done in a few weeks' time.
Right. And it makes sense to move forward with it for a town warrant item in the event that you get rejected again on the ADA,
Right.
correct?
Yes, there's no guarantee that we would get it. They do know that they are getting funding. They don't know how much funding they're getting, and they have no idea when they're going to know about the funding.
Right.
So even though our deadline is still October 9th, we don't know when we're going to find out. It could be December, it could be January, it could be February, and we don't even know when the funds are going to be given to us. Usually, you have to use them within 6 months. I think there might be a little different guideline if we were to receive the grant. So
Yep.
all we can do is try for it.
Correct.
But if we don't get it, we're still in the same position, so.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions for Patrice?
No, I just think it needs, surely, again,
Yep.
I just think it needs to be done. And if Jean can show us where the money's coming from and so forth, I just think it needs to be done. It was on our list, and
Yeah, my concern with that, it's a safety concern at this point. If we're having senior citizens fall there, it needs to be corrected.
I'd just like to make one point too, is it makes sense now with COVID, where it's not being, no one's really there.
Oh, it's a good
Best time to
opportunity.
do it,
sure,
Right.
you know?
Good opportunity.
absolutely.
I agree.
Yep. Ellie, anything?
No? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to entertain the motion on that one. We have that one down for a possible vote.
What's your final number, though, Patrice? What is the request? Is it 50?
It's going to be about 57,000 and some change.
Oh, no, you said some change in front of G.
I know. Well, I can't get it right down.
No, I heard that there's a jar on, there's a bowl on somebody's desk in the office there, so if you need
No, I
some
use that for
change.
mileage. Don't take away my mileage.
So I think we can start here and go down there very
I
fast.
just rounded up to 75 grand.
So it could be,
This would be adding to the existing budget, so the 24,000 already exists.
Yeah.
The only thing I would do is add, John's laughing because he knows he gets lectured too.
I didn't.
He's just laughing at me because I just got in trouble.
So we would need the dollar amount to add.
Yep.
Right.
So right now, I'm at $57,123, and one of the estimates that came in, the estimate that I used for the ADA grant last year for the storage pods, for the movers and for the storage pods to have everything removed from the senior center, it no longer moves anything. They only have the pods. So he referred me yesterday to somebody else as he was sending me out the new estimates for the ADA grant. And without actually physically seeing it, I did send him some pictures. He said it would be between $6,000 and $7,000 for the moving and the storage pods.
So is that in addition to the 24,000?
So the 24,000 is what we have.
Yeah.
And then we had,
The total number was 57,000.
So you're looking at the difference.
Yeah.
33.
So 20
right,
So, given the fact that she just got them in yesterday, Jean, and still kind of feeling her way around through it, it's not going to make much difference. Let's push this off until Wednesday so you can compile your figures correctly. And then, well, I know you have them all there. but
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
said $6,000 or $8,000.
no, he said it would be,
That's like saying
It's in
fair
here.
change to, finance director.
he said between $6,000 and $7,000.
Yep, no, it does, if we can get a more accurate budget, so then you can
Okay.
go and actually make it materialize. It's not gonna make a difference between now and next Wednesday.
Yep,
Yeah, is
If
the,
we- If we put this off and get
okay.
is the
a firmer number for.
asbestos
budget.
removal in here
It is.
somewhere?
Yep, it's on the right-hand side. All the new documents are on the right.
Okay.
So that's Air Safe Incorporated, Ellie.
All right, so Carpet Love is doing something or other. Air Safe is the 27,395
That's
is
for the
this
abatement, yeah,
asbestos removal.
correct. Yeah,
Right.
they call it abatement, yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing is for, okay, storage. Yeah.
So I believe the consensus is we're gonna move forward on the flooring, we just need to know
Okay,
what a firmer number is, so then we can make a recommendation.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything that wasn't anticipated? Being none, I think Kent left the room. I haven't had a chance to go through the meeting minutes myself. I think I want to push that off until next week as well. Because it seems like it's going to be pretty quick next week, going through our two little boats, and then we can look at the minutes quickly.
I'm going to be out of state, but I can, if you do call-up
Oh, you'll
stuff.
be on Zoom. Well,
Okay.
Zoom.
But just send me directions of how to do it, okay?
Yeah.
And I can,
Yeah, actually, all that stuff's right on the town website. You click on the Zoom icon, it will.
It's okay, we'll send Ellie a
yeah,
special message.
well, Justin does a very nice job of
Click here.
saying, click here and you're there, so,
Matt just volunteered to make sure that you
okay,
have all.
thank you.
And if I may, Shirley again, I will tell you that I have gone through all the minutes, and I do know the ones we can vote on with the members, and there's maybe one that we would need Caesar, because I think you were,
I was-
Brandon and Ellie were absent. You were not on the board at the time.
yeah.
Or if you were, no.
Have you had a chance to look at the meeting minutes at all, Ken?
I scanned them real quick.
Yeah.
And
You
there,
feel comfortable voting on them now, or
Sure.
Ellie?
I haven't looked at them, but I trust how they were written. You know, I don't, it Shirley's the sharpshooter here.
and there is one set of minutes, the August 19th, 2020, that I do have a question on. in there, it says that there's a notice to proceed has been issued for the Shady Knolls highway bounds. I don't recall evaluating and having that on a capital. So I don't
I
know
thought the,
how that got in there.
on one of our lists, we had highway bounds on there, I believe, in Gene's spreadsheet.
Yes, it was in there, and then I find it in the minutes.
Right.
Well, we went through the outstanding capital item list, and that could have been where the discussion was.
But it is in the minutes, so I don't know how.
Yeah, so it had to get discussed then. It's, I remember seeing it on the list that Gene sent over to us.
Yes, that is.
Yeah,
But in the minutes, and like I said, I don't remember capital evaluating that particular issue.
I don't either, not for the highway bounds.
No, but we can talk about that when we approve them.
yeah. Let's just
Just
go through them.
FYI.
Let's just go through them next week. I'd rather have,
Yep,
give everybody the opportunity to look at them and make sure. I don't want to,
yep.
I don't feel comfortable just saying, oh, yeah, I trust you. looking
No,
at 'em.
you need to look.
So,
Don't take my word for it.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if nobody else has anything.
Okay.
Oh, 1 minute.
No, I already said
You're
it.
gonna forget, you're gonna get confused.
No, I already asked it, so I don't want to confuse you again, so.
John made a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second by Shirley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.